Hello, welcome back to Truly Just Myself with Tara, and today we are discussing the discourses with higher education in Australia. And this is just purely based on my own experiences, and I cannot speak for any other institutions or providers or anything anywhere that you have conducted higher education through. I completed my bachelor's in media communications, which is quite possibly the thing that influenced me to, complete a podcast or do a podcast or eventually have a full podcast series. And I was very lucky because I did get to do a lot of my podcasting experience through university. I did do a little bit personally before I would release this podcast. But ideally, I would have gotten more experience, yes, but I completed education in podcasting through university. So every theoretical element I have is based on my university experience, which I credit highly. My major was journalism, so podcasting wasn't the area I specialized in, but it was an area I dove quite deeply into. Podcasting is quite possibly the future. It is how we will see the world, right? There is going to eventually be no radio stations. A long time off, of course, a long time off, but it is really overtaking the radio world. And it's quite disappointing because if you do know me, you know that I had a radio show when I was quite fairly young. And this radio show was broadcast across the Coast region, and it was quite a great experience for a young girl like myself. I loved yapping, and it just kind of came up. I did the course through CHYFM, Coast Harbour Youth Radio, and yeah, I was quite successful. I got my own show with a fellow girl, and we had the show. It was called the Afternoon Brunch. We also did the KFC breakfast show, which is a quite early morning show. I used to hate the early morning wake up before school, but I quite frankly enjoyed every bit of it. But since that is quite sparse these days, podcasting has taken a big growth. It has got a lot of people doing podcasts, regardless of qualifications, education, experience, a portfolio, CV. We are all doing podcasts, which does leave the market a little bit oversaturated. But in all due defense to these people, they have stories too. Everyone's got a story. Everyone has uniqueness. There is no exact story that's exactly the same. So this whole idea of podcasting is quite beautiful, and it shares many experiences. Maybe one day you find something you 100% relate to, and suddenly you're like best friends with that podcaster because you know their story and you know how it aligns with your story. And maybe one day you'll get on the podcast. I've been on a few podcasts myself, and they're a lot of fun. If you find a niche, an area you stick to, it's quite good to find, and it's quite good to end up being a guest. Of course, it's such a privilege, of course. I'm talking about the discourses though with university. That was just a very positive experience that I had, right? Podcasting helped me. The learning of the theory behind podcasting and the history, the evolution of media was quite frankly the best part of university. The worst part was learning about media theorists. So people that created theories around it. So obviously we know, everyone knows this theory. Feminism, that's a theory. Marxism theory. There's a few more. But they're the main ones that come to my brain off script, right? And these theories were quite hard to, I guess, learn about, and quite hard to write compelling pieces about. I failed that unit because I could not grasp the way to write something like that. I quite like writing real stories, real pure stories about people, human experiences. not about, a psychoanalysis. Yes, psychoanalyst. I hated that. I hated writing that because I cannot think from a psychological perspective, and that theory made no sense to me whatsoever. And same with Marxism. I can't write that. That's not the area I like writing in. And I also there was an ecological theory that we also dove into, and it was not where I want to lead my career in. But I did really vibe with the units that were more arts-based. When I say arts-based, I mean music journalism, practical journalism, people skills in journalism, stuff like that. I also dreaded this unit called network cultures because I don't really care. I don't care about the network, and media. Media is just my love, and I love the practical aspects of media. When it goes the opposite way, it's just Anyway, I would wish there would be more practical elements to university, because the whole idea of university being only theory does kind of leave you ending your degree thinking, I could do more, I could have learnt more. Even though I've learnt all that's required for the degree, I feel like there's so much more growth in learning more. And that's why I was originally going to do a master's degree, but then financially it's just not doable for most people. And if it's doable for you, you're lucky, go you. But for me, it's personally not doable. It's more doable to move overseas than to conduct a master's degree in Australia. So hence why I did that. But personally, education is very much something we need to do. We all need to get an education, okay? It's very special. But there are discourses to the higher education system. For example, there's a chance that I have some form of autism, ADHD, I'm not sure. I've always been like this. Everyone that knows me knows I'm like this. I've had people questioning whether I have this, and I've had doctors also doing the same thing. But because I am over a certain age, a diagnosis is too expensive in this country, which, yes, it's just how it is. I'm still grateful to have Australia's healthcare system, because if you know people abroad, they have a quite possibly shit system. They essentially die if they don't have money, don't have anything. But I'm grateful to have Australia's system regardless of the flaws in the system. So the higher education world does not cater towards anyone that fits outside of their narrative. So their narrative is quick-witted, someone that's that follows the books. I do not follow the books. That's why I really did have a harder time with my higher education. But I know people who followed the books and said, it's a breeze, there's nothing going wrong here, this is top class education. But because I don't follow the books in like a, naughty way. I don't follow them in a naughty way, is what I mean. I follow them in a way that's my own, because I know how I work, I know how I learn. I do it the way I do it, right? And that's how I learn best. I am a bit of a visual learner. So with lectures, I would love when they had recordings of it or live broadcasts of the lectures, because I can purely sit down, get in my element and replay, because it's just how I work. It's just how my brain works. It's just how I am, right? And there were some units that did not have that feature, and that does make it not accessible, university not accessible to everyone, which is, in my heart, is a flaw. My heart is telling me it's a huge flaw in the system. We should be able to replay content, especially when we're paying a fuck ton to get that education. We should be able to see more than a slide with one word on it, because at the end of the day, no one's going to remember 100% everything a lecturer has said. And as for special considerations for university, they were harsh. I got rejected quite often. I had internet issues once, and boom, special consideration. I just had to take it. I had to take the 5% off, as the arts faculty rules were, and just take the L. And quite frankly, that is not the way it should be. There should be ways around if something happens, right? Because not every day it happens, right? But it does happen. It's not just a rare occasion or a weird circumstance. We all experience a hardship at one point, and universities need to accommodate it better. Okay, our final topic here today is paid pracs. Oof. And this recently did just change as of the 23rd of July. But in my personal opinion, it's not enough. There needs to be more that happens, more that is possibly a part of the next budget. I'm not sure how this works politically, but something needs to change. I think it's around $3.30 per week, but you know, some of those fields in universities work do the paid, unpaid pracs a lot. A lot of hours are accumulated, and there is not enough financial support. Most cannot get Centrelink. I knew people that were actually grinding hard at university full-time and then going back to a full-time job during the night. It's quite frankly disgusting. I was never eligible for Centrelink at university either, so I understand the harshness of it. I had to do a unpaid practical too, but it wasn't as much as the medical fields, science fields have to do. I had a story about nursing students, and they were quite frankly eating 2-minute noodles every day. And they were going to their unpaid part and then trying to squeeze, yes, I emphasize squeeze in their real jobs, their paid jobs. I know it's just experience, but not everyone can afford unpaid pracs. There are people out there that 100% can and will happily do these things, and good luck to them, but not everyone can. Not everyone's in that tax bracket. I only did about 70 hours, so I cannot complain. It was easy. I did it online. I have the capability to do my practicals online, and I know a lot of areas around my arts fields do that too. But it's frankly not enough, Mr. Prime Minister, and you need to sort it out a bit. Maybe treasurer, I'm not sure. But someone needs to get on this ASAP, because this economy is not okay to be earning $3.30 a week, only under certain circumstances, of course, because not everyone will be getting the money, right? Not every person that does unpaid pracs will be getting it, because there'll be definitely, like Centrelink, terms and conditions to it. There'll be a tax bracket your parents would have to be in, and even if you support yourself financially, it will probably go off your parents, especially as an undergrad. Probably not a postgrad, possibly, not sure, but definitely as an undergrad, it will go off your parents' income, where you're situated, whether they own or rent. It's so silly and needs to be fixed, altered, something like that. But yeah. Anyways, this is quite a short episode, yes, but we kind of dove into the discourses. Yeah, I hope we did. Truly Just Myself is on Spotify and YouTube. So if you're watching on the other one, I also have it on the other one. So thank you. My next episode will be possibly sometime next week. I'm trying to dive into the ideas that I have right now fresh in my brain, so the yapping is continuous, but yeah, we'll see. Thank you for listening to Truly Just Myself. Tara out.